any business cannot survive without having digitized, say, their processes. Going digital, yes, people think I want to go digital. They want to probably digitize their process. If you're thinking from a tunnel vision point of view, you only see a small hole at the end, and that you think is your vision. But when you bring in other stakeholders,
there is a competitor and their UI is way too similar to the one that we have built, and that's where the whole thing went down. Oh, why did we even do the discovery phase?
Right. And if the user acceptance testing happens with that mindset, that makes it a lot more easier for the development phase to, say, conclude and go out into the market and deploy.
They do is just to release it, they cut down on certain features because they want to release it, and then they probably release a half-baked product into the market and it doesn't work. So I feel the product development is not a destination. Welcome to the Human AI podcast. I am your host Ritesh Kedar, and co-hosting me is
Himanshu, Kaushik.
So in this podcast, we are going to discuss how can we leverage tech and how can we use AI and other tools to empower our businesses, to build disruptive products and probably build something valuable in the market. And we have Himanshu here. Himanshu, go ahead.
Hi, Himanshu Kaushik. Very happy to be here co-hosting this podcast, the Human AI podcast with Ritesh here. We're going to be talking about, as he said, how we leverage tech and how we build digital products, disruptive digital products. I want to bring in my about half a decade's experience and probably add as much value as I can into this conversation.
So Himanshu, let's start the conversation from the topic of what all value can digital product development bring into new businesses. So that is where the starting point is going to be, and then we will flow the conversation ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel in terms of the whole space, when we talk about building digital products and building, say, softwares or any kind of platforms, let it be a SaaS, let it be a web application, or for a particular business, I feel in the day and age we are in and how things are changing today, any business cannot survive without having digitized, say, their processes, the way they're working or anything.
So Himanshu, what I feel is one of the topmost reason that any business owner in today's age should consider going digital is one, which is risk of getting left behind. I feel if you're not going to use tech, if you're not going to empower your team, your business using all the new innovation that the tech is bringing, you will be left behind in this whole competitive market, is what my take is.
Yes.
Have you seen anybody who has got left behind? Any case study that you have felt that, this business got left behind just because it did not upgrade?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to talk about businesses or I don't want to take a particular name, but I have seen clients who have come to us in the past and they are now thinking about, say, building, digitizing certain processes in the company. And those are the same clients that we've been working with in the past, right? So it's not that we haven't engaged with them. So we ourselves have told them, okay, probably it's time to maybe build a software around digitizing a certain process, right? So they've said at that stage, no, I don't think so. Like, their feeling is it's not worth the investment. The process, like the things they were doing were still working. It's not that the business wasn't working the way it should have been, but they saw a certain scale up in their business at one point, which was good for them. But at that stage, they realized that it's too difficult to be doing all of this manually. This is just an example, but difficult to be doing all of this manually, right? And at that stage, they think, oh no, I think they should, like, we should be digitizing all our processes and build a digital product that helps us run our business more productively, right? But at that stage, they were so behind in the game where all their competitors were already offering the services that they should be offering in a digital manner, that I feel they were left behind in the market.
Interesting. So let's discuss the starting point, which is, let's take an example of, there is a guy who is in his mid 40s He is probably leading a big team of talented individuals. Probably they are in some domain of insurance or banking or probably consumer electronics or something. And he decides, my vision is I want to go digital. What is the starting point?
In my opinion, the starting point would be, is there a problem that he's trying to solve? Going digital, yes. People think, I want to go digital. They want to probably digitize their process, probably build a software that helps them run their business in a more productive way. Yes, all those are the right things. But if he says, or if a particular person says, I want to go digital, I want to digitize my processes, what is the problem that he's trying to solve, right? That people have said, and I've read somewhere, that if you write down your problem, 50%, if you can clearly write down your problem, 50% of the problem is solved right there. But that's right. But first he needs to identify what is the problem. Is there a problem? And then work on solving that. In my opinion, once he has established that there is a problem and we need a solution around it, then the solution is digital. I feel that's that probably is a starting point to building any digital product.
Okay, so what you're saying is clarity of thoughts.
Yes.
Is the starting point of bringing the vision to your digitization journey.
Yes.
So let's talk on clarity of thoughts. Okay, how can somebody, as you mentioned, that if he writes down in clear manner what he wants, etc., what are the other ways that you think? I mean, I can think of a couple of ways. That's why this question is there. What I feel is the thing that has worked for me is mind maps. I have, there are a lot of times wherein I get a project wherein, okay, fine, this is a vision that it's a conceptual vision. Yes. And they want to execute, okay, this is what I think would disrupt my market. And this is what I want to build. But it's very conceptual, very ideation based thoughts that they have. And then I have to sit with them. My team has to sit with them. And they have to, we have to churn out the exact vision of how the product is going to look like.
Yes.
Now, what I have observed is there are 2 to 3 ways by which I have gained the clarity of thoughts. Of course, one being mind maps. There are a lot of things that are available online, but I prefer the old school way, which is a whiteboard and a marker wherein you just mind map everything. For everyone else, mind maps is just a way of, expressing your thoughts in a very natural manner. The way neurons communicate, that's how mind map is. You can just, Google or YouTube mind map and you'll understand what mind mapping is. So that is a basic technique one of the techniques that I use to gain clarity of thoughts in any vision that I want to execute. Then other than mind maps, I think I have also observed that a lot of people do use to-do lists. Do you think to-do lists are efficient in gaining the clarity of vision? Not in execution, I'm saying.
In gaining clarity of your vision, I don't know how to-do lists come into the picture. Probably one of the reasons is I don't use it in a way. I'll tell you a bit more about how I would feel, or how I feel you can actually gain clarity of your vision, or actually build a product brief or something in a more clear manner. And I feel what works is, yes, absolutely what you said, mind maps is a very good way of achieving that. Next would be, if you're a business owner and you have, say, a team of 40 people that work with you, and now you as the business owner have come up with the idea that we need to be building a digital product. But again, the whole process starts where, what are we building, how are we building it, what's the vision and everything. What I feel is brainstorming with your future stakeholders, because when you actually get into the building of any digital product, obviously all the stakeholders will come into the picture, right? Representatives of different departments, and they will put in their take. Everything will collaboratively give out ideas and work out what needs to be done, right? But stakeholders need to be brought in earlier in the stage, even at the ideation phase, even before they have engaged with a tech company, but only internally they're talking about the business owner has come up with the idea that we need to be doing this. He or she needs to be engaging the potential future stakeholders and brainstorming with them. I feel that becomes a very good way of opening up ideas, because you are thinking about it with in a certain way. And what we would like, from my experience, I would say that tunnel visioning is the worst thing that can be done when you're actually trying to build out a vision, right? If you're thinking from a tunnel vision point of view, you only see a small hole at the end, and that you think is your vision. But when you bring in other stakeholders, your future stakeholders, and I keep saying future stakeholders because people do not actually engage them at this conceptual or ideation phase, which everything's happening in their head, yes, but they need to engage with people, engage with the team who this digital product will directly impact, right? That's my feeling. But I would still like to know around the to-do list thing, because I didn't answer that question. How do you feel to-do list come into the picture?
So I think the layout that to-do list actually follows is good for executing something.
Right.
But as far as clarity of thoughts are concerned, I think there are other better ways of doing it. There are a lot of mind maps being one. Journaling is another one. Then there are a couple of more ways also that you can very easily find online. Mood boarding is one. Vision boarding is another one. So all these ways I feel are better to first develop your vision that, okay, fine, this is the idea. But then how do I gain a bit next step clarity of this idea? Great. So I think, Himanshu, now that somebody has his product vision clear, the next step is what? Let's talk about the next step.
Discovery. And it's a very it's probably one of the most, or the most important part of your whole project, right? If we call this whole building of the digital product a project, that phase or discovery phase or the discovery part of the project is going to be the most important part of your project. Because what happens is people, they've come up with the idea, they have worked out their vision, they've done all the right things up until then. But then when they actually get down to the execution part, okay, now we engage, say, with the tech team, and somebody engages with us, and now they want to build a product. The discovery phase needs to be, however long it takes, we should be spending that time. How much ever effort we need to be putting into the discovery phase, how much ever investment we need to be putting into the discovery phase should be put in. So yes, so when I'm saying discovery phase, we need to be doing everything, all sorts of user research, all sorts of interviews that we do to build, say, UX of the app, wireframing of the app, iterating on the wireframes, doing tests on the wireframes, actually with the future users, giving them the wireframes to actually test out and recording their reactions and seeing if they're getting stuck, if they're not getting stuck. All of these things are going to take time. But what happens when somebody's come up with the vision, they want to do it fast, right? They actually, okay, cool, let's build it, let's get it out in the market. The rush of getting it out into the market is probably maybe it probably holds a big risk, because you might build the wrong product, even though your vision was correct, even though the idea that you came up with was correct and conceptually everything was fine, but the end product that's now built can be incorrect and can not actually match to your objectives. And that is the biggest risk, right? That not actually achieving your objective. You've set out with an objective, which is good. Now you're out there and you want to achieve that objective, but you build the product and it does not actually achieve your objective. So I feel when we are going through the whole discovery phase, it is very important that's done in the right way, that we give the right time to it, give the right money to it. And as an output, we have something. When the end product's out, we have something that actually achieves your goals, right? So
got it. So basically what I understand is, and even I agree to you, discovery phase is kind of the intermediate phase between your idea or concept and your development.
yes,
If you have an idea and you start to jump onto development of it, probabilistically it is going to mess up.
yes,
Right? Either it is going to cost you a lot more because of all the back and forth that you would be doing, or you would be probably building a wrong product.
Yes.
And then you will be again reiterating the product and going back and forth on it. So I think discovery phase is the phase wherein the clarity of vision in terms of the feature set, in terms of the look and feel, in terms of the information that we'll be getting from the user as well as displaying to the user, all these parameters of your idea or concept are going to crystallize in the discovery phase,
Yes.
right? Okay, great. So guys, I think stage 1 was clear, that you have an idea. How do you get clarity of the idea? Then stage 2 is wherein discovery phase happens. Now let's discuss more onto the discovery phase. So what I have generally seen is there are two kind of people. One is a company who has their own tech employees in whatever technology that they are working on, and second, the company who do not have technology employees or tech employees, and they have probably outsourced this to somebody or maybe built it, or they are using some ready-made SaaS based products.
Yeah.
Now we have to figure out if somebody wants to build a product, digital product. Both the scenarios we'll have to put some
Yes.
light on. So let's put some light on the person who already has tech company, has tech employees
Yes.
or tech team, and what they should be doing. What are their options of doing the discovery phase?
Yes. So, in my opinion, again, if there's a company who already has a tech team, right, there are pros and cons, and they'll be in both the scenarios. The pros are obviously you have team on hand, you can be doing R&D continuously. The cons are we don't know what technology they work on. It could be that they work on a certain technology, but the product that you're setting out to build needs a different kind of technology that you don't have in-house as a skill set. But when we talk about a company with an internal tech team doing discovery phase, their options are, again, they have the pros come into the picture, right? They have endless opportunities because before they engage, say, with an outsourced company or a separate tech firm to actually build the product, they have enough time to keep ideating and follow a proper step-by-step process in the discovery phase to actually build out the prototypes that they need to. Because in the discovery phase, everything is a prototype. We are not building. We're not, like, if we talk in technical terms, we are not yet coding, right? We are just, say, doing things in Figma or Adobe. So things are very fluid, very simple to move things around. As I said, if you have a tech team internally, there are pros and cons, and doing an ideation phase or a discovery phase with an internal tech team, there are pros and pros, and a lot of more of pros than cons, because you have endless opportunities in terms of how much time you can be spending on it. There's probably lesser investment because you have an internal team. You can keep ideating on your or iterating on your prototypes that you have built. So the output actually refines a lot more. But you tell me, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I think that if you have a tech team who is in-house, they have the tunnel vision. Okay, so they are in the
Yes.
domain. They are in the domain. They are developing the products in the domain. So if you tell them to do something innovative, if you tell them to do a discovery phase, they'll be able to do it, but they would be having the tunnel vision. My recommendation would be you do it with your team, but as well as get a third party involved.
Yes.
Probably a third party team, maybe 2-5 people who will do in conjunction with your team. Your team has the expertise of domain expertise, as well as this new team who have the fresh ideas, who have probably cross domain expertise. They come into the picture. They collaborate with your team and form a small little unit which works on discovering the idea that you want.
Yes.
Now, I think in this phase, the external team or the contracted team that you have brought into the picture, they also will be equipped with tech skill set, which is not what your team already has. Probably, maybe your team works on a tech which is a legacy tech because they have been using it for quite a while. And this new team who comes onto the board, they might be having, or they should have, I should say, they should have expertise in the latest tech trends. They should know what deployments are going on now, what kind of architectures are there, what kind of robustness can you build in tech. That way, I feel you'll be able to build a product which is discovered well in terms of technology as well as in terms of the business idea. So that is something that I feel. What do you think on having a collaborative
Yes.
team?
I think you make a very, very good point. And I probably didn't think about it like that, because absolutely, as I said, there are pros of having an internal team, but the biggest con would be the tunnel visioning. And you don't want that. If you are setting out to ideate a new product, you need endless opportunities. Basically, everything needs to be open. You need all the ideas that can come in. And that is what an external team can bring in to the picture. As you said, they have different sort of technology they have exposure to different sorts of technology. They have a different sort of skill set.
Yeah.
The output would be much more refined and cleaner, and maybe even probably better than purely working with an external team. Because if you think about it, there's the external team which is bringing all the external expertise that you want, but there's the internal team that knows the business in and out.
Correct.
And both of them working collaboratively could actually give you a very, very good output, and probably a very successful output as well. But again, we are building products.
Okay, so I think now that we discussed is for the tech, for a company who already has a tech team. Let's discuss about a company who has no tech team and is outsourcing it. So let's discuss what would be the process of discovering your idea when you are outsourcing it to an external contractor, external software development vendor.
Yes. I think there are a lot of companies out there probably don't have the scale of having an internal tech team to start with as well. So they would have to go out to an external tech team. And that's probably a very right thing to do as well. I mean, you engage with a very good team that actually brings your idea to life. They know the processes that you need to follow to actually work through the whole discovery phase, because discovery phase is a very step-by-step process. It's not, we are discovering. It's not like that. It is a process that we follow, right? So the external team that's coming in has that knowledge or the expertise. But what misses over there is we still need somebody to bring in all the experience and all the information about the business. So it becomes very important in a scenario like that it's a very collaborative approach between the two teams. It is not, and whenever, because when you are ideating the vision, say the business owner is doing it himself or herself, right? When you're building the product, the tech team is building the product for you because they have the spec to build it. At that stage, you don't have a lot of involvement. But the discovery phase is one where both the parties need to be very heavily involved. And the business needs to be, as I said, bringing all the right stakeholders and everything into the picture. And the tech team needs to be bringing all the processes and systems you should be following to actually have a successful output.
Got it. So, what I feel is when somebody is outsourcing their discovery phase to an external vendor, one thing that they'll have to keep in mind is they should have one single point of contact from their side who will be facilitating the whole thing.
Yes.
And this point of contact, which is their in-house point of contact, would also have internal team who is equipped with the business side of things at least.
Yes.
Who can understand the business aspect of the vision that we are trying to create here, of the product that we are trying to build here, and then efficiently convey that to the tech team.
Yes.
So that is one thing that I feel is a must. Now I want to focus. What are the factors that we should a company should consider before outsourcing their discovery phase to any external contractor? Now, if the external contractor has already worked in this domain, say for example, the company is an insurance company. If an external contractor has already worked in insurance domain, do you think that should be one of the criteria to work on something like this discovery? Because by the nature of it, now that he has worked in this domain, the pros are that he already has a lot of information about this domain, but the cons are that he might be affected with the tunnel vision. What is your take on it?
I think I'm a little bit agnostic on this one, because we could, yes, absolutely. There are pros and cons when we talk about onboarding a third-party vendor who's going to be doing the ideation for us, and we know that they have worked in the similar domain in the past. Yeah, there are pros that they maybe know a bit more. They would have a bit more information against somebody who hasn't worked in the domain. But they could only, as you said, they could think from a tunnel vision point of view that what they did in the previous project is the same problem over here, and they would try to apply the same solutions, and those things will start coming into the picture. So I feel, but as I said, again, it's more, I'm agnostic, and because it's it's also that we don't know. It's more on the kind of team and the kind of energy that's coming into the picture, right? The kind of synergy you're creating with the potential tech team. It could be that they have worked in the similar sector for a long time with multiple clients, but the way they do things or the way they approach a particular project is completely like as a new project. They don't want to bring in information from the past one. Yes, they want to bring in learnings and everything from past projects, but that's again, learnings are not only from the same domain, right? So it's a very it would be a fairly difficult question to answer that it's a yes or a no, because it's not. It's more, in my opinion, it's more about the team that you're engaging with and what kind of approach they take with projects. And then it wouldn't matter if they've had experience in the domain or they don't have experience in the domain.
Okay. So my opinion is kind of slightly different on this. What I feel is, if the vendor is already working in this domain, I would strongly recommend you to go through his past work and then give him the assignment. Because a lot of them, I have like a very practical case study wherein a company outsourced its discovery phase to a third party. The third party understood the problem statement and everything, and they created a discovery phase which was almost exact replica of his competitor.
Right.
Including the wireframes, including the UI also, by just a little bit of tweaking here and there. We did not understood that it is a replica for quite a while, but after the product was developed and was released, then when we came to know about, oh, there is a competitor and their UI is way too similar to the one that we have built. And that's where the whole thing, went down. Oh, why did we even do the discovery phase?
Right.
So I feel closely monitoring the vendor's work and the competitive brands that he's working with, and what kind of work he's doing with those brands, as well as being very clear with the vendor that we won't be accepting a replica work.
Yes,
is one thing that should be that should be focused on. Second thing, if you're working with a vendor who has not worked in your industry, that's still fine, I feel. Yeah. Because there are multiple brilliant projects that we at Thumbstack have created wherein we had zero knowledge about that domain. We have learned that domain right from the ground up and then delivered exceptionally good results, exceptionally well performing products. Not only that, we have also combined our knowledge of other domains, the other problems that we solved in that domain. We have modified those strategies and then put it to work in this, whatever the domain was. So I feel understanding the domain is just part of discovery phase.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
team is equipped, the technology is available, the resources are available throughout the internet. Plus you have a point of contact that you can give it to them, and then you can outsource. So I think if somebody has the domain knowledge or not is not that big of a deciding factor, because it's knowledge and it can be learned.
Yes. And I would actually add on to your point, which was somebody who does not have the knowledge about a particular domain would actually go out and learn about the domain. They would do their own research, right? And you hold a potential risk with somebody who has experience in the similar domain, because they would think that we already know everything about the domain, and they do not do the new research which is required at that stage. And that is a potential risk. But again, that can be very easily mitigated by the same team who has experience, but they're still open to researching or learning the new trends of the same domain, right? So at the end, as I was saying, it comes down to the kind of team you're working with, but there is a potential risk of that as well, that somebody might think, oh, cool, we know everything about this, so we are the right fit. But somebody who does not has more eagerness to learn about that domain, and again, the output can differ accordingly.
Okay, so now that we are all set with the vision discovery phase, let's talk a bit about how do somebody start the development. Okay, let's talk in terms of a company who already have a tech team, as well as a company who has no tech team and is going to outsource it. Let's just focus on the first part, then the second part.
Sure. So I would, in order to answer that question, I'll tell you my thought process of when it comes to developing products, right? And my thinking is that whenever you set out to build anything, and the team that is building it needs to have the team members, in fact, down to the team members, need to have certain strengths that directly complement the product they're building, right? And the strengths are not again related to the kind of domain we are working in. It's not related to the industry, but it's related to the kind of product we are trying to build and how people think, because everyone's different, right? Even the developers. I know there are two people sitting in front of us, and both are developers, and both of them can say develop something on using React, but both of them have completely different thought processes, right? So as owning and running a tech company, I would say it is very important for us to be choosing the right team, right? So when it comes to having an internal tech team doing your build, it's very important to know that if these guys who are sitting here and actually doing the build, can they build this product, and are they the right fit for building the product? And when I'm saying the right fit, it's not the technology, it's not knowledge of knowing how to build, but it's the fit. Do they complement the product that they're trying to build?
Yeah, I agree to you on this point. I think a lot of times what I have seen is that the stakeholder has some idea and a concept to build. They do the discovery phase, etc. And then once they have the feature set and everything in front of them, what they do is they already have a team. They tell their team that, boss, you have to develop this product. And with whatever skill set that team has, they start building it, irrespective of what tech they are going to build this in. And a lot of time, then what happens is the product that is being built has a lot of limitations. So what my thoughts are, you don't build a product depending upon the team. You build a team based on the product. So if your product requires, say, a developer who is great at building React applications, if your product requires a person who has immense knowledge of WebSockets, if a product requires that some tech guy who is great at building real-time communication and big data, so then you have to choose that instead of just upskilling your current team. Because what happens is, in certain cases it does work by upskilling your team, but in most of the cases, if you just get an expert on board, he does the work better than somebody who has just got upskilled.
Yes.
So building your team who will be developing a product is very, very, very essential. Don't just use your current team if it does not have what it takes to build a product. Just get a new team, either outsource it to somebody or get a resource on board on contract.
Yes.
Maybe you have a team who already have half of the resources available. Probably a React, you already have React guy, you already have a big data guy, and you need somebody who does great WebSockets. You get that guy onboarded, contracted. But build a great team with all the skill set that is required, and of course, rightly you mentioned, the right attitude to build the product. A lot of time, so what generally I do is I divide an employee, or I divide a teammate into two parts, which is skill set and will set. If a person has a skill set or he's lacking in certain parts of doing this tech, you can you can train him, you can give him certain courses and he can be upskilled. But if somebody is having a low willpower, then mostly you won't be able to do anything. Even if he's an expert in what he does, if he's not willing to do it, if he's not willing to take a certain approach, if he's not willing to do whatever it takes to build a product, the talent has no value here. He's eventually going to lose the talent. So I feel these are the pointers that a company who already has a tech team should consider while building a team.
Absolutely.
Let's discuss about a company who has no tech team yet wants to build a product, and they have already surpassed the discovery phase.
Yes, absolutely. In that case, again, now they don't have an internal tech team, and they have two options in this scenario as well. Either they get people on board internally, or they engage with an external tech company that's going to build the product for them. Now, in both the cases, I would say it's more feasible from a cost point of view as well, and more viable in getting an external tech team to actually do it for you. Reason being, when you're trying to get an internal tech team, you're going to try to obviously make sure you get people on the right salaries to have right costs and everything. And maybe even that would be cheaper as compared to having an external tech team. But you would not have, you would miss out on the opportunity of having people who can work on that particular niche and are very experienced on that niche. And if you try and build a team of 5 very experienced people, that's going to be very expensive. And then if you try and build a team of having 1 experienced person and 4 at par people, that might not give you the right output. So when you go to an external tech team who live and breathe actually building products and it's their livelihood, they have all the right people there. They have the right team there and they have the right knowledge, the expertise that you need. When you take the product to them, they will know who within their team would be the right fit to build this product, right? And that would give you a much better output in terms of your build.
Got it. So that brings me to the burning question, which is contract versus retainer. Okay. So a lot of times that I have seen is that people do outsource the project on contractual basis, as in on a scope based pricing or timelines, wherein they have defined something, they outsource it to a company. The company is responsible of building it as well as releasing it, and they do it well. On the other hand, there are certain companies who take employees on rent, team members on rent, and these team members work probably very closely with their own team, as well as they build, they are like a core team. They behave like a core team. They get the work done in whatever timelines that they have, and they release the products. So I want to address these 2 pointers. I think what I feel is, if your thoughts are very much in a conceptual stage, then for the discovery you can get a team on rent.
Yes.
Because we don't know how much time it is going to take for the discovery. Now, a lot of companies do have this question. Oh, if we take them on retainer, then they will probably deliberately slow down the process, because for them the incentive is to delay the process.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And my answer to that would be, if you don't trust your vendor, why even give them the work?
The job. Absolutely.
If you trust the vendor, give them the job and trust that they will complete the job with all their heart and sweat in right timelines. There are a lot of processes that I'm sure you might be able to explain well, in which you can get the right work done in a retainer model, and which would not cost you that much, versus a contractual model. What I've felt is, in contractual models, specifically when you're doing a discovery phase, the output that you're going to get is going to be subpar, because the vendor has a budget. Yes. And he has to work on that budget, and the discovery phase is more or less like a conceptual and ever evolving kind of process, in which the vendor would be more focused on just completing the project as fast as possible.
Yes.
And that's wherein the output of the discovery hampers a lot.
Yes.
So I would want to understand from you, which type of model should a company work on, and how can they churn out the most efficient work out of the vendors, if they are doing a discovery phase, as well as if they are doing the development phase.
Yes. Okay. So in my opinion, I'll first give a very short and sweet answer. Definitely discovery phase retainer based. Absolutely not contractual, and we'll get into whys and everything as well. And when it comes to the build, it can be both, and that again depends on the type of the product, which we'll get into as well. So when we are in the discovery phase, there is no point even doing the discovery if you are doing it in a contractual manner, because absolutely the vendors have a set budget to work to, and they will work their best to give you an output. But the quality of the output cannot be assured, because it's their job to give you the output. It's their job to finish within the timeline and the budget that they have been allocated. So they will do it. Absolutely. But you lose out on the quality, or you lose out on what could have actually happened if we had more time or more budget or more time to innovate, basically, right? When you're working in a retainer based model, I know all those things come into the picture, that if it's on a retainer, the developers themselves would deliberately extend the timeline. But that can happen in any field, right? Not just digital. There are other places where you're probably getting a house built and all your laborers are working on a day-to-day basis. You have no idea about how a house is built, right? They could be taking their sweet time to build it, but you do put in a bit of trust, right? That yes, they're going to come every day and do their best work to actually build my house. And at the end, you get a good house. That's what's going to happen over here. That if you're building, if you're doing the discovery phase on a retainer model, the team's motivated. The team is wanting to develop something good, and they're going to come and do their best work every day. And then you will have a good output. Yes, there are ways around it as well. You set a timeline on a retainer base as well. It's not that everything's out in the open, right? Even if you're doing a retainer base and you have a monthly cost against it, but you still give a tentative timeline, you still make a plan, you still do all of that, right? So there still is a soft deadline. Okay, we have to finish it in 3 months. This is our current plan. When you're actually in the gist of it, things might expand a little bit. There's new things coming up, so it might take 3.5 or 4 months, but it gives the clients a sense, okay, cool, I could be spending about 3 to 4 months. It's not out in the open. So that's probably one way of mitigating that as well. But absolutely, doing the discovery phase in a retainer model is going to give you the best output. Now, when we talk about the build, that can be done in both ways, and that again depends on the type of the product. If your product vision is very clear, we exactly know what we need to be building. The discovery phase, output of the discovery phase, the wireframes we have are so clear and so in depth, and we know this is the scope. We have covered every base, and if the business owner and the tech team are convinced enough, because that could be the case, right? Not all the products are massive, right? Every product can grow once built as well, but the initial phase one, or the first build, or the first deployment that we can say, is very clear. And if that's the case, we can easily say, okay, cool, we'll do it at a contractual basis, right? That we'll tell you the exact cost because we know exactly what we are building. And even in that case, if something comes out, we can very clearly say this is out of scope, so we just raise a change request. But there are sometimes products that when you actually start building and you start testing, at that stage, more things will come out. You put it out in the market as a MVP and people start using it. There's feedback, continuous feedback that you probably could not get because in the prototype feedback, it wasn't that productive. So you will have to spend more in actually adding more features, right? At that stage, if you're doing it in a retainer model, it's a bit more easier. But as I said, building a product can be done in both contractual and retainer. Depends on the kind of product or the kind of output you're looking for. And again, it's what kind of investment you have as well. At the end of the day, somebody has to spend the money as well, right? So all of that needs to be worked out. But that's what's my take on it.
So I think the simplest takeaway would be if your discovery phase's output is ultra clear, then you go for a contractual one-time scope-based contract.
Yes.
If your discovery phase's output is again a kind of unclear and there are valid reasons for it, then you go for a retainer, test the waters, put your product into the market, follow the stages, do a POC, then do an MVP, check it out, how it performs, then you go for rest of the phases.
Yes.
That would be the kind of the strategy to go out in the market.
Yes.
Great. I feel that we have covered up the concept to discovery to development. Now I want to understand in the development phase itself, how can somebody make sure, a company make sure that the product is built as per their understanding and as per their expectations?
Okay. So one thing, and people probably don't give so much importance to it, is UAT, user acceptance testing, right? We all know a scope in both cases. If it's a very clear discovery output, we know exactly what we're building. The developers will build it. Everything will happen. But still, in the prototype phase, there are certain things that cannot be depicted. You cannot prototype each and everything, every behavior, everything that a software does. You cannot do that. Yeah. All of that comes out when you have actually built it, when you actually have a living, breathing product that is now running and you are testing it. The developers are going to test it from a functionality point of view. The tech team will test it from, okay, it is It does what it should. It passes all the test cases. It does everything. So it's good to go into the market. Right. Yes, it is. But not until the user acceptance testing is done. And the user acceptance testing is a completely different kind of testing. What happens sometimes is when we, like in the past, when I've given it to the client to test, they test it. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's doing what it should do. I'm like, yeah, it's doing what it should do. You are doing a testing. The kind of testing you're doing is the kind of testing we've already done. What we want is, are you satisfied with how the product is working, how the product is behaving, how everything is happening? Is your vision, your objective, has that been achieved? And if the user acceptance testing happens with that mindset, that makes it a lot more easier for the development phase to, say, conclude and go out into the market and deploy and everything.
Yeah, I think what you said is absolutely right. What I have felt is, what generally product managers or teams do is, for them UAT phase is a phase just prior to release. That's it. You do a UAT, which means there is a product which has gone live and you are safe.
Yes.
That is the vision, not vision. That is a definition. That is a definition of UAT for a lot of people. But even I feel the UAT is a stage which is actually built. That functionality is done, the product works, testing and everything is done. Now, whatever the thing that we have built, is it making sense to the user? That is the stage. So UAT and production, these two stages actually should be poles. It should be separated by a huge time gap. I feel what people do is, okay, UAT is gone today. Let's release the product tomorrow, or let's do a product probably in a week. But what I feel is UAT should be done. The whole users, whoever the targeted audience was, they should be shown the product in UAT. If they're satisfied, cool. If they think that there has to be some feedbacks here and then, you should maybe modify it slight bit, and then you churn out your production timeline. But going for a production timeline which is very near to UAT is a lot of, is going to cause mess for sure. There is another, I think a bad practice that I have seen is, and it's a very funny thing that I have seen a lot of people do is, say, there is a company and they have the founder of the company, and it's his birthday that is going to be coming after 6 months. And they want to develop this product, build this product and gift them on their birthday. Or if there is, in India, we call it as all these muhurta and festivals are going on. So they want to, there is a good day here after 3 months or 4 months, we want to release it on that day. And then what they do is, they make the timeline in such a way that it is released on that day. And most of the time, it's a fucked up job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have seen that people do, first of all, they don't meet the deadlines. Then what they do is, just to release it, they cut down on certain features because they want to release it. And then they probably release a half-baked product into the market and it doesn't work. So just for the sake of it, they have a deadline. What I would probably want is, you set your UAT deadline first instead of your prod deadline. Of course, you have a soft deadlines and all that. But first, have a hard deadline for UAT. Do the UAT first. Get confidence in your product. Show the UAT to your customers and all that. Get confidence in the product some more. And after that, then properly plan your production deadline. That is what I would want to tell it to our audience. Now, let's discuss a bit of do's and don'ts that companies should do in developing a digital product or going in the digital transformation journey. So let's address some of the do's and don'ts.
Yes, absolutely. I think I would start with the biggest do, in my opinion, which is, and it goes back to what we've already spoken about a little bit as well and everything, but having a very clear vision to start with.
Yeah.
It is very important. And that all happens before the discovery phase. And I said there are different ways of doing it. We discussed mind maps, we discussed brainstorming and everything. So having a very, very clear vision to start with. And when we say vision is a very broad term. It's a vision. We know we don't need all the answers, but we need a very clear vision still. And that is, in my opinion, the biggest do, because that will sort of work step by step everything from there. All your discovery, your build, everything's going to happen from that clear vision. So that, in my opinion, is the biggest two.
Yeah, I think great pointer. I think Himanshu. The second pointer I would want to add is bifurcated visions of product and business. This is a big don't. Okay, a lot of time what happens is the business goal is to do X thing, but the product is built and it's actually doing Y thing. So this bifurcation is something that happens way too frequently than what we can think of, and a lot of people are already aware of it. Oh, that we know that ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए, like we should not bifurcate it, but when they develop a product, it is clearly bifurcated vision. So I think that is a big don't. The way you correct it is by continuously focusing, reiterating on what business we are trying to achieve, what problem we are trying to resolve, and then again, aligning the product development towards your business goals.
Absolutely.
So that is a biggest, I feel, pointer that you should consider, because that would directly contribute to the product success. What any other pointer that you have in mind?
You very rightly said the biggest don't, and I would just add on a little bit to it, because when a business owner or a founder or somebody or the product champion, we can call it, has come up with the idea of the product, the start is always to solve a business problem.
Yeah.
But as soon as the product is born, they start focusing more on the product. They make the product their baby. And I think that is why the misalignment of the business goal and the product happens. So that probably is one thing in that don't as well, that it needs to be it needs to be aligned at all times. But I feel the reason that happens is because they make the product their baby and they start thinking more about the product, but the thinking should be more still about the business, and the product should keep complementing it. And that's how I feel the two can stay aligned.
So don't make your product your baby, make the business your baby.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think the next pointer I would want to emphasize on is the QA, quality assurance.
Yes.
What a lot of people do is they have a basic testing done on the product's functionalities, and that's it. The product is ready to be released. What I would want to have a focus more on is, of course, you do the testing. Of course, you do the functional testing. You do the stress testing. You do all the security testings and everything. Of course, that has to be done. But I think a product is being built with user-centric approach is it built or not is one thing that you need to test at the end also of the product. That, okay, fine, this is the finished product, this is well tested and everything. Now, again, is it built keeping user in mind or not? So that is one another pointer that I feel that is good to do. Another is go-to-market strategy. A lot of people do build the product. The product is excellent because we have been there and done that. The product is excellent, but the way the product is released to the market is completely flawed. So you have a great product, but nobody knows about it. What's the point? Absolutely. It's not going to fetch the business that you're expecting. So the go-to-market strategy has to be in place either right at the start of your thought process, or if you are not able to figure it out, then probably in the mid of your product development. But there has to be a go-to-market strategy, and you have to jump around the trends that are happening. You have to get probably an external vendor or any marketing team onboarded who will understand the product in and out and create a go-to-market strategy.
Yes. And I feel it's very important to also make sure that when you are defining your vision, when you're doing everything to make sure your vision is so clearly defined, you need to make sure you need to do market feasibility testing as well to see, I have a vision, it's very clear, there is a product behind it, but is it feasible for the market? And that is what will keep building on to help you have your go-to-market strategy. Absolutely, you said correctly that the go-to-market, in my opinion, go-to-market strategy should be ready when you are actually in your vision stage, because going to market is the most important thing. Build and everything is going to happen, but once it's built, the project makes or breaks, or basically is successful or unsuccessful based on its go-to-market strategy, right? And that needs to be ready at the start. Yes, it keeps evolving based on the trends, because the whole process of building is going to be so long that things will change. You'll have to slightly keep changing your go-to-market strategy, but you need to have one at the start. You don't wait till the end to get one. I would even say not even wait to the mid. Why to wait to the mid? Have a go-to-market strategy as if you have the product ready now, and then build from there, because it's going to, at the end, the two things will come together more organically than as a slap on that, okay, now we need to just get it to the market, right? So that should not happen.
Yeah, and there is one more point that I want to focus on is your go-to-market strategy is going to define your product market fit.
Yes.
Your go-to-market strategy should have the iteration, the feedback loops from the customers built into the product, so that when you're releasing the product into the market, you're testing the waters, you're testing the customer's behavior, you're testing the customer's feedback, everything you're baking, using that feedback, putting into the product, evolving the product. I feel the product development is not a destination that, okay, fine, we have to reach here and the product is in hands. Product development is going to be an evolution process wherein you are continuously changing the product. It's not a never ending kind of process. You're always going to make the product better because market is going to evolve. Your product market fit, once it is achieved, is also eventually going to evolve.
Yes, absolutely.
So your go-to market strategy should have product market fit baked into it, is another thing. And I think the last pointer that comes into my mind is don't rush.
Absolutely.
If you're rushing for anything, I mean, you should have deadlines, because time is something that is very crucial. If you don't release in time into the market, you're going to lose out on a big market share. Probably the product might fail. But properly planning things, churning out your development timeline, release timeline, your discovery phase, everything properly in such a way that you are going to meet up with the market, you're going to release a product into the market, and everything is going to be as per planned. At least most of the things are going to be as per planned, is something that you should be doing instead of just rushing things. Absolutely. If you rush things, you will probably mess it up at one or the other stage.
Yes.
So I think that is it. Now that we discovered the idea, the discovery, the development, and of course a bit of release phases, and this is probably not we planned a lot of things in to discuss in the talk, but probably the talk just went in the flow, and we discussed on a complete product development to release process that you can say. That is it. I think a good time to wrap up the talk. And it was great talking to you guys on this topic.
Yes.
I think even we had a small brainstorming session. I learned new things from Himanshu. I'm sure Himanshu also might have discovered a couple of new things. So that is it. That is me, Ritesh, Kedar, and
Himanshu, Kaushik.
And we are at the Human AI Podcast. Please subscribe.